before you run out of daylight, so to speak. For me, is we start basically this week of doing some skills practices across the board with our hockey director at the Naval Academy, or with the Navy Youth Hockey, with our girls women's program director. So we're going to be on the ice as a group between the girls program, the 14s and the 16s, all together doing skills. We'll get into our training camp the second to last week of August, and then we have the first EPL showcase the 23rd to 25th, I think, weekend. So it's all going to start happening very quickly, but I do want the kids to get that last gasp of summer over the next week before we really start hammering it.
Sure. I think that's the one thing. For example, like Devin, my son has been skating since May. Twice a week. He's been working off ice with a trainer 3 days a week. We just talked to his assistant coach yesterday at Suffolk, and he'll hit September 1st. He'll move in, and then that week they'll have a team meeting. That Thursday they'll skate, and then they'll be into 3 days a week lifting, 2 days a week on the ice, and then some team building activities on the weekend for a month and a half before they hit their official practices. So same thing you guys are talking about. It's kind of like we're going to go away for a week. We're going to tone it down a little bit, let him relax, let him rest, and then, and then it's going to be on him at that point. And, the kids are going to do what the kids that are committed are going to put in the work. And that's kind of once you get to 16, 15, 14, that's where you start to separate which kids love it and love being good so much that they don't mind putting in the work.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to continue what you just said. It's because you touched on all of it. I mean, every single kid should go into this and try to be as committed as they can to this season. They should go into it. If they want to be committed, right? Be committed to every little detail. Be committed to the off ice. And I want to touch on the off ice before we start. You can be better than 85% of most hockey players just by being in better shape. And a lot of the teenagers that are in hockey, midgets and bantams, they don't really want to put the work in there, and they don't really buy into that. And that's unfortunate for most of them, because if they buy into that early, it's going to be a regimen. It's going to be something that's going to change your lifestyle. And if you buy into that early, it's going to put you on such a faster track later on.
I can tell you, like with my son's development, at like Pee Wee level, we always had our kids do sports camps in the summer. It's what they enjoyed doing. At some point, he was like, I really want to do hockey camps. He was playing club baseball and playing 55 or 60 games. Ooh. So he was getting to do his hockey camps, and he did battle camps, and he did some power skating, and he did stick handling camp. And the next year, he went from 35 points to like 70 points and was like, wow, I'm really good now. And I did these camps in the summer, and it was still fun, but I got really good. And he fell in love with being good and getting better. And all of a sudden, the hard work doesn't seem to be as much hard work, and it's more fun. Last thing before we finish up here, real quick on the Caps. They've signed all their players, but they're $1.3 million over the cap. Seems like a problem to me. Chandler Stevenson was the most recent signing. They jumped ahead of the arbitration hearing and signed him for $1.05 million, which allows them to send him to Hershey without taking a salary cap penalty. So that's a good thing, although I think he would have to go through waivers.
Pretty in-depth.
Christian Juice re-signed higher than what they expected through arbitration. So he's in a little bit of limbo. He's a guy they could trade, or the problem if they send him down is I think he would get claimed. So for the Caps to have 23 guys on their roster, something's got to give. And it's going to be interesting. They have a couple guys like Travis Boyd, players similar to that. Jonas Siegenthaler can go down without having to clear waivers because he's still young enough. But he's their number 6 guy on D right now. So that's kind of where it gets interesting as far as pro hockey goes, Ben, is how they're going to figure out who their 23 are, or are they going to just send a guy down and keep 22 and risk until they hit the road for the first time not having a full roster?
Well, what's potentially could happen as well is somebody comes in and becomes a big surprise as a younger guy in training camp,
sure,
and makes it easier to allow one of those guys to get picked up off of waivers or potentially lose them, for a guy that's making whatever league minimum money.
Trades are possible.
Sure. I think that's the game plan probably for now, is to see what happens at training camp. If a guy comes in and surprises and can take away a spot for half the money, then we're okay with moving a guy away.
Sure.
At that point, then it's, then you have to decide. We've talked about before, you have to make those tough decisions eventually of letting a guy go, or unfortunately letting a guy get claimed off of waivers that you maybe didn't want to lose, or you wanted to get an asset for him through a trade. Sometimes you just have to let them be able to walk away or get stolen away.
That's some interesting news also. I mean, I think with the Caps, they've got the skill players. The question now, the reason they won the Stanley Cup was their depth. And where are they depth-wise? Something's got to give here. Someone's probably got to go one way or another. And, how are some of these younger guys they've drafted, or some of these bargain free agents, bottom-end free agents that they have signed, or how are they going to improve? Coach Mazzo just reminded me, former Cap, briefly, Kevin Shattenkirk was he bought out? Is that what happened? So he's bought out by the Rangers?
By the New York Rangers.
And some people think that they might be able to get him for like $1.5 million, $2 million this year, $3 million maybe. Kind of changes the market a little bit. A guy out there now who can make a difference for the right team. Still a top power play guy at the point.
Yeah, it's actually funny. It's come up on my Twitter feed a lot yesterday about how he's not the same defenseman as used to be, yada yada. Let's be honest. He has tremendous experience in the NHL. He has put tons of points up where he has played, whether it's been Colorado, whether it's been New York, whether it's been Capitals, whether it's been St. Louis, and there definitely is room for him in the NHL. I don't know if it's going to be. The rumor was that he was going to get bought out by the Rangers and he was going to just stay in the tri-state area. But
you're hoping
there's nothing for Islanders, and I can sit here and hope all I want for the Devils, but I just don't see it happening for both teams. Both teams Islanders and the Devils have way too many rookies coming in that are defensively sound that they are pushing to make teams like Ty Smith, like Bo Wild. Like these are boys that they're hoping to actually play.
Well, we'll find out soon, right? I think we're 35, 40 days away from training camp. It's almost hockey season, folks. For us, hockey season never ends. We are here for our last day up in the Boston area for the Kings of the East Coast Showcase, hoping that the two guests on the show can lead our team to a 3-1 record. Big game today against the Boston Knights. You never know what you're going to get. One year they had 5 NHL draft picks. The next year they have 7 skaters. So it'll be an interesting game today, guys. But thanks for all you do with our kids. Thanks for coaching this week. Thanks for being here. Still ahead, we have our Sunday Elite League update. We'll have some player interviews from Kings of the East Coast that we'll do today. And then Connecticut Rangers, Junior Rangers, NCDC Let's start over there. Connecticut Junior Rangers, NCDC GM, lots of alphabet there. Vinnie Montalbano will join us from the Kings of the East Coast Showcase. He puts this together. It's an awesome event. Only 8 to 10 teams are invited. Lots of Tier 2, Tier 1, and Division 1 type players here. Everyone else is pretty much a D3 prospect, uncommitted kids. So we're very fortunate to be part of this. We really thank Vinnie, and we're going to have him on the show a little bit later to talk to you. But we'll move on from there, and let's go win a hockey game.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good.
Hello again, everybody. This is Scott Lowe for the DMV Hockey Podcast with the Sunday Elite Hockey League Roundup. A few weeks ago, going into Week 8, all 4 teams were tied at 2-2, the Grinders, the Flow, the Hosers, and Saucers. But by goal differential, we had the Grinders in first place, 25 goals for, 22 against. The Flow in second, 30 goals for, 31 against. The Hosers third, 31 goals for, 34 goals against. And the Saucers fourth, 28 goals for, 32 goals against. That week in Week 8, we had the Hosers defeating the Saucers to improve the 3-2, 9-7. And the Flow defeated the Grinders by a score of 13-6 to improve the 3-2. Moving on to Week 9, the Flow defeated the Hosers 13-6 as the Flow improved to 4-2. The Saucers defeated the Grinders 12-5 to improve to 3-3, while the Grinders dropped to 2-4, and the Hosers also come through now at 3-3 after splitting their games the last 2 weeks. In the Week 9 games, the Flow's 13-6 victory over the Hosers. Ethan Docking, the Delaware University ACHA Division I forward, led the way for the Flow with 4 goals and 2 assists. Sam Stitz, Team Maryland 16U AAA forward, had 3 goals and 2 assists. Tyler Christ added 2 assists, and Liam Walsh had a goal and 2 assists for the Flow. Leading the way for the Hosers in the 13-6 loss to the Flow was Evan Donnelly. Maryland EHL forward, and Eric Reiniger, formerly of DeMatha High School, heading to the University of Alabama, each with 2 goals. In the Saucers' 12-5 victory over the Grinders, Christian Halbig, former DeMatha defenseman heading to play with the Philadelphia Revolution in the EHL, had a hat-trick. Caleb Craven, Team Maryland 16U defenseman, a goal and 3 assists. Devin Lowe, heading to Suffolk University, former Team Maryland 18U captain, and then Jake Pliner, former Team Maryland 18U, now at the University of Maryland, and Jack Massey, also former Team Maryland 18U, playing with the Philadelphia Revolution this year. Each had 1 goal and 2 assists, while Team Maryland 18U Zach Cavanaugh had 2 goals for the Saucers in the victory. For the Grinders, Stevenson University players Ryan Patrick and Christian Ripley led the way. Patrick with 2 goals and 1 assist, Ripley with 1 goal and 2 assists. Jared Cable was the top goalie in the game with 44 saves. Week 10 saw us take a break with everyone traveling for showcases, main camps, and other vacations and other reasons. So we only played 1 game. It was basically a combined Saucers and Grinders team versus Hosers and Flow team, with the Saucers Grinders group taking a 14-9 victory with several goals, I think 4 goals late in the game. Christian Ripley had 2 goals in the second half to lead the way for the Saucers and Grinders team. Devin Lowe finished the game with 4 assists. Brian Middledorf had 4 goals, including the game-winning goal, after Wyatt Hinkson had tied it with about 4 minutes left. Brandon Scholes had 2 goals for the opposing team in the loss. And actually, in that game, the Saucers and Grinders team jumped out to a 5-1 lead, but the Hosers Flow combo came back with 4 straight goals, 2 of those by Maryland and Black Bear NAHL tender Finn McLean, which tied the score at 5. They actually led 7-6, but 7 of the next 10 goals were scored by the Saucers Grinders combo team. At one point, despite trailing 5-1 early, the Hosers Flow combination team actually led 7-6 and 8-7. But as we said, at one point, the Saucers and Grinders combo went on to score 7 of the final 10 goals. Christian Ripley and Liam Eden scored back-to-back to put them in front 8-7. The Hosers and Flow team went back up 9-8 before Wyatt Hinkson tied it, and then at 9, and then in the final 4 minutes, 5 straight goals by the Saucers Grinders mix ended the scoring, and the final was 14-9 in that contest. So we have a big day today. Looking at the standings now as we go into week 11 of Sunday Elite Hockey League play. The Flow are in first place now with a record of 4-2, 56 goals for, 43 against. The Saucers are in second, 3-3, 47 goals for, 45 against. The Hosers also 3-3, 47 goals for, 54 goals against. And the Grinders are fourth at 2-4, 37 goals for, 47 goals against. So the 4:15 game at Reisterstown on today, which is August 4th, will be a huge one as the Grinders take on the Flow. The Grinders take on the Hosers at 4:15 at Reisterstown, then followed by a battle for first place between the Saucers and Flow at 6 p.m. That has been your SEHL roundup for week 8, 9, and 10. Week 11 today, and then we'll be heading toward the playoffs after that. So that was our Sunday Elite Hockey League wrap-up as we head into Week 11 and prepare for the push to the playoffs. For the next few weeks, we'll have games every Sunday, 4:15 and 6 p.m. at Reisterstown Sportsplex as we head into the final portion of the season. There will be a semifinal and final round coming up, just depending on player availability. We're going to figure that out over the next couple of weeks, but hopefully you've been able to stop by Reisterstown during the season, or you can sometimes in the near future. Everyone is welcome. We'd love to have you come out and see truly some of the top players between the ages of 16U up into college in our DMV area, and tons of Division III NCAA players, AAA players, prep school players, as well as junior players and high AA level players. So it's really been a great experience the last 2 years to put this together. We look forward to hopefully expanding it in the future, and you're welcome at any time to come out and watch the kids play at Reisterstown Sportsplex on Sundays at 4:15 and 6 p.m. Next up, we have an interview with Vinnie Montalbano. Vinnie is the NCDC General Manager for the Connecticut Junior Rangers, and he also put together the Kings of the East Coast Showcase that we played in last week. We had a DMV team up there that opened with 2 victories against 2 of the top spring and summer showcase teams in in the country, beating the Minnesota Blades and the East Coast Kings before finishing the tournament at 2-2. But still a great showing for our kids, who generated a lot of interest among the 30-plus